everyone, it's Monday and you're watching Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. South Korea is seeing a second boom in the Middle East region. This as Seoul and Riyadh inks over 50 MOUs and contracts worth around $15.6 billion, adding to the previous deals worth $29 billion that were signed during Prince Mohammed's visit to Seoul last year. Such an agreement to bolster economic ties came during President Yoon's visit to Saudi Arabia, his first leg of 6-day state visits to Riyadh and Doha. What are the specifics that led the two countries to expand their bilateral economic partnership? And what diplomatic significance does President Yoon's visit to the Middle East have? For more on this, we have invited Professor Min Jeong-hun from the Korean National Diplomatic Academy. Professor Min, welcome.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being with us. And we also welcome Professor Yang Jun-sok from the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, welcome.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for being with us. All right, first question to our Professor Yang. So I'd like to ask how the overall relationship between South Korea and the Middle East region has been up to now. Presidential office pointed out that the proactive expansion of companies into the Middle East region served as a stepping stone to overcome the oil shock crisis in the 1970s. How so?
Okay, well, during the first oil shock of 1973, Korean development was still in fairly early stages, so we weren't really affected that much by the increase in oil prices. But because of the extra revenue that the Middle Eastern countries received, they started a lot of construction projects, a lot of infrastructure projects, and Korean construction companies were able to make headways in Middle Eastern countries to start a lot of construction projects, and that brought in a lot of needed foreign currency into Korea, so it was very much a mutually beneficial experience. Now, for the second oil shock in 1979, that was a big shock. Korean oil prices rose by more than 100% in just a couple of weeks, and that was also coupled with the assassination of President Park Chung-hee, so this was one of the worst periods in Korean economic history. Before the second oil shock, we were actually getting our oil through the United States, not directly from Middle Eastern oil producers, but because we suffered a lot of supply bottlenecks because of the oil shock. In 1979, during the second oil shock, 1980, we actually started to build direct distribution channels with the Middle Eastern oil producers themselves so that we were able to get oil directly, and that helped our petrochemical industries quite a bit.
All right, it must have been a big help for South Korea in many ways. Now, Professor Min, President Yoon is currently in Riyadh right now as part of his state visits to Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And this trip is taking place amid conflicts between Israel and Hamas as well as the Ukrainian war. How significant are state visits like this at such a time?
Well, the President Yoon is making his first state visit to Saudi Arabia and Qatar this time. And the main goal of the visit is to boost the economic and security cooperation, partnerships, and explore the new areas of cooperation beyond energy and construction. And the Saudi Arabia and Qatar are the two of the South Korea's main partners, trading partners in the Middle East, and they are also key players in the regional politics and economy. So a friendly cooperation with these countries is essential to South Korea's economy and the security. And through the state visit this time, South Korea will reinforce the existing cooperative the relationship with Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and will also try to diversify cooperation with them. And Saudi Arabia and Qatar together account for the 38% of South Korea's crude oil imports and 21% of its gas import. So in the aspect of the energy security, they are very important partners to South Korea. So in the summit meetings, President Yoon is expected to discuss ways to stabilize oil and gas supplies, considering growing uncertainty and the oil prices volatility caused by the wars in Ukraine and Israel. In addition, South Korea's partnerships with the Middle East countries will go beyond energy and construction to a new stage that includes hydrogen energy, IT, electric vehicles, shipbuilding, defense, and culture and entertainment.
Right.
So in sum, President Yoon's visit to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, this time is very important to secure South Korea's energy security and expand the scope of its cooperation with the Middle East countries to secure the future search engine for its economy.
Right, I see. Like you said, Professor Min, South Korea and Saudi Arabia agreed on several measures to expand cooperation to go beyond construction and energy cooperation. And for this, we need to talk about Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, as the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Mohamed said that South Korea is the most right partner, the optimal partner. What is this Vision 2030?
Basically, we can say that the Saudi Vision 2030 is kind of the ambitious plan to go beyond the Saudi Arabia's oil-centric economy. The Vision 23 is a government program that aims to achieve the goal of the increased diversification economically, socially, and culturally. And the Saudi government first announced it in April 2016. And it lays out targets for diversification and improving competitiveness. And it has three main themes: a vibrant society, a thriving economy, and ambitious nation. The first, the vibrant society projects include urbanization, culture and entertainment, sports and life expectancy, and the thriving economy includes employment, women in the workforce, international competitiveness, public investment fund, and foreign direct investment. And the ambitious nation projects include non-oil revenues, the government effectiveness, electronic government, and non-profit and volunteering. So we can see that the ambitious plan covers almost all walks of life in the country. And Saudi Vision 2030 has been mainly highlighted, as I mentioned earlier today, because it shows a roadmap for moving the country away from the oil-centric economy. So South Korea can be one of the main cooperation partners for the ambitious plan because South Korea has economic development know-how and experience, and South Korea's companies excellent capabilities and skills. And the cooperation between the two countries can be diversified, including energy, construction and infrastructure, investment, and culture.
Right, I see. So for the post-oil era, Saudi Arabia is preparing for mega projects like Neom City, I guess. Well, that being said, Professor Yang, in what ways could South Korea be the most optimal partner for Saudi Arabia?
Okay, well, as I mentioned, Korea does have a long history of working with Saudi Arabia, especially in construction projects. Taking Neom City as an example, Neom City is a $500 billion project, and the city is designed to be a financial and cultural hub. And it's also designed to be a smart city where IT is incorporated into the city itself. Korean construction firms are known as very strong competitors in smart city construction. So they will be ideal partners for building a lot of this Neom City projects. And then we just mentioned that the Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries are interested in going beyond the current oil-centered economy. They are especially interested in IT, games and entertainment, financial services, and Korea does have a strong emphasis on a lot of these areas. For example, when the Prince came to Korea last year, the party accompanying the Prince were very interested in games and entertainment, the K computer games, and the companies like Kakao. The Saudi Arabians were very interested in those companies. They're also seeking investment in those companies, not only investment in Korea, but having these companies invest in Saudi Arabia as well. And then going beyond the oil economy for electric vehicles, some renewable energy sources. Those are all fields that Korea has very strong players in, or those are areas that Korea seeks to become important player in. So in that sense, Saudi Arabia can play a very important role in helping Korean firms get a foothold in the global market for these products and these markets.
Oh, I see. So there were many aspects of South Korea that attracted Saudi Arabia to work together for all those projects. I see. Well, Professor Min, now let's take a look at the specifics of the state visit of President Yoon. So on Saturday, he visited the historical town of Riyadh, where the Saudi investment minister asked South Korean companies to actively participate in Riyadh's development. What is this place, Riyadh, and what is this giga project about?
Yes, it has been reported that, interestingly, Saudi Arabian officials asked President Yoon to help develop the historical town of Riyadh. And as you mentioned, President Yoon visited the birthplace of the first Saudi state, Riyadh, on Saturday, and met the Saudi investment minister and other government officials there. And they mentioned that they want the South Korean companies to actively participate in the Riyadh's development. It's like a modernization development. And they also showed specific areas of cooperation related to construction, hotels, and restaurants. So the Riyadh development project is one of the 5 giga projects designated by the Saudi government. And the project is estimated at $20 billion US, and it envisions the construction of luxury villas, townhouses, the community centers, hospitals, and shopping centers in town. And as you know, this year marks 50 years since South Korean companies began entering the Saudi construction market and established their stepping stone for South Korea to overcome the 1970s energy crisis. So I expect that this year will be another new beginning of the Middle East boom for the upcoming 50 years by working hard with the Saudi Arabian governments in those places.
Right, it must be a great opportunity for South Korean companies to participate in this giga project. Well, Professor Yang, after visiting the historical town, President Yoon had a summit with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed. And the summit took place nearly a year after the Crown Prince visited Seoul last November. What was agreed back then, and could we see tangible results of those agreements right now?
Okay, well, during the last visit by the prince, Saudi Arabia and Korea agreed on investment of about 29 billion won, $29 billion. And at least according to the government, about 60% of that amount is right now realized or almost realized. They have contracts for various projects. That includes a contract for Samsung engineering and construction, dealing with Oxagon modular market. It's basically a modular construction type of operation, and they've agreed on building a mutual factory with the Saudi Arabian partners. And then there's a COPEC, Korean electric company project, where they agreed to have electric generation, heat generation project that's worth about $799 million US. So these projects are coming up faster than expected. Again, about 60% of the amount that they agreed on last year has been signed or is almost ready to be signed.
Right. It's nice to hear how we are seeing tangible results regarding these agreements that we made before last November. Now, Professor Min, South Korea and Saudi Arabia, as you have already mentioned, are trying to make this cooperative efforts go to another level. And that being said, a total of 51 deals and MOUs worth a total of $15.6 billion US were signed. And as far as I know, among them was between Saudi Aramco and Korea's National Oil Corporation. What was this deal about?
Yes, basically the deal is about securing the energy security for South Korea. As you mentioned, it is reported that South Korea and Saudi Arabia will sign 51 deals and MOUs worth a total of $15.6 billion US. It's a huge money for the two countries. And the new deal will add to the $29 billion US dollars worth of MOUs and contracts signed during the Saudi Crown Prince visit to Seoul last November. And the contracts and MOUs cover a wide range of the sectors, including crude oil, auto industry, hydrogen energy, and defense, statistics, and other things. But you talked about the importance of the deals made between the Korea National Oil Corporation and Saudi Aramco. They made the deal in order to create a joint crude oil reserve of 5.3 billion barrels at the storage facility in the South Korean city of Ulsan by 2028. And under the deal, South Korea will have priority purchasing rights to the oil supply and the demand emergency, and earn rent over a 5-year lease period. So considering growing uncertainty and oil price volatility, it will contribute to stabilizing oil and gas supplies in South Korea and can be a meaningful progress for South Korea's energy security.
Right, I see. So it was for energy security, especially for crude oil and gas. Right. Now, there was also an agreement on automotive industry, Professor Yang, Public Investment Fund, and the Hyundai Motor agreed to sign a car assembly plant. What was this about?
Okay, well, this is an assembly plant. They take what they call complete knockdown kits. That's basically a car that has all the parts but not yet assembled, and they will make a factory in Saudi Arabia that will be able to assemble about 50,000 of these complete knockdown kits that could be sold in Saudi Arabia, other Middle Eastern countries and Northern African countries. This factory is scheduled to begin building in the early part of 2024, and it should be completed in the early part of 2026. And some of these vehicles are probably going to be electric vehicles as well. So this will be an opportunity for Hyundai Motors to increase its exports in the Middle Eastern and Northern African regions.
Right, I see. Professor Yang, one more question. Another deal was an agreement on a hydrogen oasis cooperation initiative. What is this about? And moreover, how are both countries expected to cooperate in the renewable energy sector?
Okay, well, as we just mentioned, Saudi Arabia is interested in going away from fossil fuels and moving into cleaner, renewable fuels. And this hydrogen oasis project is designed to produce clean hydrogen. Now, hydrogen can be produced in many ways, but a lot of times it's made using leftovers from production of oil or gas, and that could be actually very dirty, so it kind of defeats the purpose of having hydrogen as clean energy. This Hydrogen Oasis Cooperation Initiative is designed to produce clean hydrogen that will not produce those kind of hydrocarbons or greenhouse gases. It's actually a bundle of many different projects, and the first few of those projects, including what they call blue ammonia project, has been signed, and those will probably go on very soon. And basically, what Saudi Arabia wants to do is they want to use the money capital that's been built up through these hydrocarbons to move into the energy industries of the future. And energy industries of the future, you will have to make sure that they are clean. So the Saudi Arabians want to make sure that they get into that before other major countries.
Right, we are seeing expansion of cooperation even in the renewable energy sector. All right, good. Now, Professor Min, we are running out of time, but I'd like to ask you this last question. The contracts and MOUs cover a wider range of other sectors as well, from statistics to food and medical products. And I also saw the reports that say that there was even a discussion over large-scale defense industry cooperation. What were details of this?
Well, basically, the contracts and MOUs cover other sectors, as the Professor Yang mentioned, like auto industry, hydrogen energy, defense, statistics, and food and medical products. And most importantly, I think that South Korea and Saudi Arabia are in the final stage of talks of a large-scale defense industry cooperation, such as anti-aircraft defense systems and firearms. But the two governments rejected to reveal the details of the deals because it is directly related to the national security and the country's military capabilities. So we cannot know the details of the deal, but we can see that the two countries agreed to have the huge amount of the transaction for the military cooperation. In addition, South Korea's Hyundai Motors and the Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund signed a huge contract to jointly invest around $400 million to build a car assembly plant in Saudi Arabia, and the plant will be designed to produce annually 50,000 electric and gas-powered cars starting in 2026. And more important, it will become South Korea's first electric vehicle production hub in the Middle East. And the two countries also agreed to the Hydrogen Oasis cooperation initiative, as Professor Yang mentioned. And the two countries also signed the agreement between the statistic agencies to share information and material about the statistical production. And for your question, considering the Saudi Arabia want to move forward the future-oriented economy and strengthen its security, I think that South Korea's capabilities and experiences in advanced technologies and defense industry will mainly boost the cooperation between the two countries.
All right, I see. Hope we could see elevation of ties between the two countries as we go on with these projects. All right, well, unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today's edition. Thank you, Professor Min, for your time and insights.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Professor Yang, for your time and insights as well. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all for Within the Frame tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.